Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. For today's video, we're going to take a look at this beautiful 1988 Saab 900 Turbo SPG. In this review, we'll start it up, show the engine, get an exhaust clipping over the performance data, take it on a thorough drive, and show you many of the unique aspects throughout the interior as well as exterior. Alright everyone, I'd like to introduce you real quick to Will. He's the owner of this beautiful SPG behind us. I've always wanted to drive one of these cars and I never thought I'd be able to, so thank you so much for the opportunity. It was just awesome.
Well, thank you for coming up to New Jersey. Happy to have you. And if you guys want to check out more of the SPG, feel free to check out my channel. I guess Kyle will put it in the description box. Since you're Saab Kyle 04, I think it would only be right if you get to keep that Saab hat.
Oh yeah?
So I think, so please enjoy that.
Thank you.
And have fun with it. It's vintage.
Awesome.
This is impromptu. This wasn't planned. So I don't know if this is going in the vlog. I don't even know if it's going to make it to YouTube. But just enjoy the hat,
This is awesome. Thank you so much. Hope you guys enjoy the video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop on in, start her up, let her run. The SPG was only offered in 4 different colors, but never all at the same time. The colors ranged from gloss black, like this example, to Edwardian gray, beryl green, which is exclusive for 1991, and Talladega red, which was only offered during the last 2 years of production. In 1988, gloss black was a $470 option. Inside, buffalo gray bridge of weir leather upholstery came standard on the SPG and was optional on other trim levels of the 900. Starting the 900 is an interesting process as the ignition cylinder is located in the center console. Just insert the key and flick it to the right to go. All 900s featured power-assisted rack and pinion steering. The rack itself is located behind the engine and rubber isolated as to not be disturbed by the vertical movements of the front wheels and springs, ensuring good directional stability even on rougher roads. In 1988, the steering wheel was a sporty 3-spoke design with a horn button on each spoke. A leather-wrapped steering wheel was added in 1989, while an airbag didn't appear until 1990, but even then, it was only for the driver. This is a car that's always full of surprises, not just with its many quirks, but how it drives and behaves on the road. You might as well throw everything that you thought you knew about front-wheel drive performance cars out of the window with these, because that's what the SPG was to Saab, the Enthusiast 900. It doesn't behave like you'd expect it to, which does nothing but praise the level of engineering instilled into these cars. For one, the steering is light, relatively direct, and takes 3.7 turns to lock. I wouldn't call it sharp necessarily, but it's certainly accurate and does the job well. The turning circle is measured at just 33 feet 10 inches. Through corners, there's good road feel, and it's surprisingly neutral. Even when driving spiritedly, the SPG never felt like it wanted to understeer or lose itself in any way. The driving position is excellent, especially with the curved windshield, narrow A-pillars, and low hood line. The rest of the outward visibility is excellent as well, with a ton of glass all the way around and no blind spots whatsoever. Most 900s are offered with either a standard 5-speed manual gearbox or the option of a 3-speed automatic transmission. The SPG came exclusively with a 5-speed and a 3.67 to 1 final drive. Perhaps the most unique thing about this powertrain is that the engine, clutch, gearbox, and differential are all integrated as one unit. Despite this integration, the engine and transmission do not share oil feeds, each has their own sump. Instead of being mounted transversely like most front-wheel drive cars, the 900's engine is mounted longitudinally. It also sits at a 45-degree angle, which lowers the car's center of gravity and allowed for a lower hood line. I'll cover additional specifics as we go through the video, but the way the 900 delivers power to the front wheels is also opposite to convention. The output from the crankshaft isn't sent to the rear like you would expect, it's sent to the front, which leaves the pulleys and belts to sit at the rear of the engine. In other words, it's backwards. Because of the crankshaft being where it is, output is sent to the gearbox, which again sits underneath the engine, by a vertical chain-driven gear set before heading to the differential and wheels. With two equal-length drive shafts, Saab was able to eliminate any noticeable torque steer from the 900, especially important in the turbo and SPG. Getting that power to the ground was especially important in this case so that you could drive the car to its fullest potential. The manual transmission is somewhat notchy and requires a bit of care to drive as they were never designed to take much abuse. Other than that, it's a fine transmission for what the car was made for and is part of its quirkiness that always keeps it entertaining. Every now and then, a shift light will appear in the instrument cluster for what I can only assume is to encourage more economical driving. One interesting thing that you may not know about the manual transmission is that you have a bit of theft proofing built in. The only way to remove the key is to place the car into reverse first. Once the key is removed, the car is locked into reverse and can't be rolled.
So now let's go ahead and flip on the headlamps, fog lamps, and the hazards. The power windows are located in the middle, the driver's side is automatic down.
So now let's go ahead and check out the exterior, shall we? The first generation Saab 900, commonly referred to as the Classic or C900, was initially introduced in 1978 as a replacement for the long-running Saab 99. Launched for the 1979 model year, the 900 was an evolution over its predecessor. Much of the sheet metal on early cars was still shared with the 99, with the most notable differences being a longer wheelbase, new bumpers, and a longer front end to significantly improve crash safety. Despite the similarities between the two, the 900 was the first truly modern Saab. Production lasted through the 1980s before finally finishing up around 1993, before an all-new 900 was introduced for 1994. In total, just over 909,000 C900s are produced, including 2- and 4-door sedans, 3- and 5-door hatchbacks, and even a convertible, although the latter wasn't introduced until 1986. By the time 1988 rolled around, only the 3-door hatchback, 4-door sedan, and the convertible were available. For many aficionados, the C900 was the last true Saab before General Motors took full ownership of the company. The second generation 900 would ride on an Opel-derived platform. The SPG, or Special Performance Group, might as well be the holy grail of the C900s. Not only was it the most powerful 900 you could buy at the time, but it was also the fastest. Along with an uprated engine, it featured a modified suspension with a lower ride height, wider tires, and unique styling. A little over 7,600 SPGs were sold in America between 1985 and 1991, so compared to other 900s, they're not easy to come by. When the SPG was first shown in 1984, initially referred to as the Turbo 16 Aero, it made quite a splash for two primary reasons: the new aerodynamic developments and Saab's new third-generation turbo engine. Side note, Saab was actually the first manufacturer to install a turbocharger in a passenger car back in 1977. Along with a number of enhancements, all of which I'll cover in just a moment, the new engine also featured an intercooler for the first time. In conjunction with Saab's APC system that had been around since 1981, the 900 was massaged into a legitimate sports sedan to compete against offerings from other premium marques such as Audi and BMW. To visually distinguish itself over a 900 Turbo, Saab streamlined the styling of the SPG by adding more aerodynamically friendly body cladding all the way around. To me, this gave the car a more focused and substantial look, but it also had a functional benefit by reducing the car's drag coefficient, allowing for a higher top speed. The main differences include the outer portions of the front and rear fascias and the plastic cladding across the sides of the car. The SPG also features a deeper front air dam and more pronounced fender lip extensions, along with fog lamps and a rear spoiler that was shared with the Turbo. Over the years, the 900 received a number of updates and tweaks like with any car, but the general formula remained the same, as did the chassis, up until the end of production. The last significant cosmetic update came in 1987, where the 900 across the board received a new grille, headlamps, front and side lights, and reshaped front and rear bumpers. They were both lighter and offered greater protection. Mechanical updates for the 1988 included an improved cooling system for the turbocharger. Instead of being just oil-cooled, it was now water and oil-cooled. An upgraded braking system from the Saab 9000 was also added, including a new rear-acting mechanical handbrake to replace the front-acting handbrake used on earlier cars. In 1988, a 900 Turbo 3-door hatchback came with a base MSRP of $22,655. Adding the Special Performance Group, a $2,960 option exclusive to the hatchback, as well as the optional black paint, this one's stickered for $26,423, including a $338 destination charge. All 900s for 1988 came with 15 by 5.5 inch wheels. Steel wheels were included on the base model, while the S, Turbo, and SPG were fitted with lighter weight alloy wheels. According to past Saab literature, there were 9 different alloy styles available in 1988. The SPG was fitted with these 3-spoke wheels as standard equipment. While the wheels are the same size as what you would expect to find on a 900 Turbo, the SPG was fitted with wider 195/60 V-rated performance tires, compared to H-rated 185/65 tires used on the 900 Turbo. The brakes consist of 4-wheel discs, internally ventilated up front and solid in the rear. Each are paired to floating calipers and provide strong and reliable stopping performance. I believe anti-lock brakes were added in 1990. As far as the suspension, the 900 is supported by independent double wishbones in front with equal length upper and lower control arms. The springs are pivot mounted, which is a pretty unique design that prevents the springs from deflecting when heavily compressed. They'll remain straight and always retain optimum springing effect. This alone serves a huge role in the 900's excellent handling and road feel. Saab even claimed that pivot-mounted springs are quieter than conventionally mounted springs. Out back, it's a bit more complicated, as the rear suspension consists of a beam axle, a Watts link at each end, and a panhard rod to tie it all together. The Watts links consist of 2 lower control arms and 2 high-mounted trailing arms. Together they work to absorb longitudinal forces and braking torque. Any irregularities on the road, whether it be rough pavement or undulations, are absorbed vertically, while the panhard rod works to brace the axle laterally during hard cornering. This gave the rear suspension some independent behavior, but kept the wheels parallel so there's no possibility of camber changes, leading to greater directional stability. Along with coil springs in the rear, gas-charged shock absorbers can be found at each corner. Like the front suspension, rubber bushings were used wherever possible to reduce noise, vibrations, and harshness. When it was introduced, the SPG was the first 900 to receive front and rear stabilizer bars, eventually appearing on all 900s later in production. On top of that, the SPG featured shorter springs that lowered ride height by 20mm in front and 10mm in the rear, along with recalibrated shock absorbers. This gave the car a lower profile and an added handling edge over other 900s. Not necessarily in terms of lateral acceleration, but a big reduction in body roll so the car is able to corner flatter, but at the expense of a firmer ride. Also, cars equipped with the more powerful 16-valve engines benefited from hydraulic engine mounts to quell vibrations that could otherwise be transferred to the interior. Overall length is 184.7 inches with a width of 66.7 inches and a height of 55.3 inches. It rides on a 99.1 inch wheelbase and has a curb weight of around 2,895 pounds. Approximate weight distribution is 61% in front and 39% in the rear. All 900s for 1988 were powered by a longitudinally positioned 2-liter 4-cylinder featuring an iron block and an aluminum cylinder head. There were 4 variants depending on which trim level you went with. On entry-level 900s, the engine consisted of a single overhead camshaft with 2 valves per cylinder and Bosch J Jetronic mechanical fuel injection. It developed 110 horsepower and 119 pound-feet of torque. Stepping up to the 900S added a more powerful version with chain-driven double overhead camshafts, 4 valves per cylinder, self-adjusting hydraulic lifters, pent roof combustion chambers, and Bosch LH Jetronic electronic fuel injection. This boosted output to 125 horsepower and 125 pound-feet of torque. Of course, the real performance came from adding a Garrett T3 turbocharger and concomitant intercooler to the 16-valve engine in the 900 Turbo and SPG models. The intercooler drastically reduces the temperature of the compressed charge air, making it much denser and leading to greater power output over Saab's earlier non-intercooled 8-valve turbo engines. The compression ratio for the 16-valve turbo motors were rated at 9:1, while maximum engine speed was around 6,600 RPM. The SPG developed 165 horsepower at 5,500 RPM and 195 pound-feet of torque at 3,000 RPM, which is 5 horsepower and 7 pound-feet of torque more than the regular turbo. If you're familiar with the SPG, you probably already know that European spec cars actually made around 175 horsepower, but North American cars had to adhere to more strict emissions regulations. With those numbers, the SPG should be able to hit 60 in about 8.5 seconds, pass a quarter mile in 16.7 seconds, and accelerate to a top speed of around 130 miles per hour. According to Saab, both the 900 Turbo and the SPG developed a 0.75 bar or 10.9 psi boost. It's not especially quick off the line, but once you get used to a little turbo lag and figuring out the ideal shift points, it's quite a performer. Of course, the numbers don't always tell the whole story. Regardless of outright acceleration, this car is just fun. Hearing the unique sound of the engine rowing through the gears and watching the boost pressure gauge climb as you accelerate is an experience that's just hard to quantify and put into words. It's so different from any other GM-era Saab I've driven. There's a sense of purity and innocence here. The 900 Turbo and SPG weren't designed to necessarily outperform or outdrive the competition. They're just great, well-rounded products that did just about everything well. Aside from the turbocharger's integrated wastegate, which essentially acts as a pressure control valve to bleed off excess pressure, Saab's APC system, or automatic performance control, is designed to optimize engine performance with regards to the grade of fuel being used. In other words, it adjusts the boost pressure to suit the knocking limit of the fuel-to-air mixture in the cylinders. In the 900 Turbo, thanks to the Saab's APC system, the engine is able to run on pretty much any grade of fuel between 87 and 93 octane. You wouldn't get the same level of performance if using lower octane fuel, but if you needed, the engine was perfectly capable. The SPG has a different version of APC and requires the use of either 91 or 93 octane fuel. EPA fuel economy estimates range between 22 miles per gallon in the city and 27 miles per gallon on the highway. A 16.6 gallon fuel tank was standard.
So now let's go and see how she sounds, both sitting still and on the road.
Knowing Saab's crazy attention to detail, it's no surprise to see how much thought went into designing the interior, especially for a car of this vintage. With safety being a paramount, a lot of what you see was done to achieve a specific goal with regards to minimizing fatigue, improving driver awareness, and maintaining a high level of functionality. For example, the layout of the dashboard and wraparound instrument panel is very simple and straightforward. All of your necessary features are grouped according to frequency of use, while the clearly labeled large buttons and rotary dials allow for easy selection without taking your eyes off the road. Despite being somewhat utilitarian in nature, the 900 came with a generous list of standard equipment, including heated front seats. Overall build quality is exemplary. Keep in mind this example, even though it's been properly pampered its whole life, has 144,000 miles on it. Everything you see is original equipment. Is so well preserved you'd think it would have a third of that mileage at most. Pretty much everywhere you touch, you'll be greeted by soft touch surfaces, especially across the dashboard and door panels. Premium velour upholstery came standard on some 900s. Genuine bridge of weird leather was available and was included on special performance group and convertible models. It took between 2 and 3 hides to cover the interior, which was comprised of more than 50 individual pieces of leather that totaled almost 100 square feet worth. As far as comfort, the 900 has plenty of it. Getting in and out is a cinch thanks to wide door openings and a lack of wide side sills. The seats are a relatively firm design, but still pack plenty of padding where it matters the most, conforming to your body to make long trips more enjoyable. While many cars nowadays have some form of adjustable lumbar, the 900's lumbar region was designed to adjust automatically to the driver's stature and seating position. Along with your typical array of manual adjustments, the driver's seat also benefited from height and slope adjustment. The headrests are also adjustable. As roomy as the interior is, storage space is also quite good. The majority of your cargo carrying capacity is going to lie out back, which I'll talk about in a bit. The 900S and Turbo models, including the SPG, featured a front console that runs down from the middle of the dash and just ahead of the gear selector. Along with having additional compartments, it also provided a point for optional audio equipment and accessory gauges. You also have a locking glove box with illumination and 2 drink coasters. The SPG came pretty much loaded from the factory with every option available for the 900 at the time, including an electrically operated sunroof. In 1988, passive restraint safety belts were standard up front, which combines motorized shoulder belts with manual lap belts and padded knee bolsters. Along with introducing a driver's side airbag in 1990, the passive restraints were swapped out for 3-point safety belts. In 1988, the 900 was offered with 2 audio systems designed exclusively for Saab by Clarion. Both consisted of an AM/FM tuner and a cassette deck with 4 speakers. The entry model was putting out about 12 watts of power, but in the 900S and Turbo models, an upgraded 80-watt system was used that included an electronic lockout feature. If the radio was removed, it would no longer play unless you entered a special 4-digit security code, providing an extra measure of theft deterrence. Saab even said, when in doubt, take it out. The radio is easily removable with a set of specialized tools for safekeeping if not in use. In the front console, Turbo models in 1988 featured a 7-band equalizer for customized sound control and 4 factory-encoded memory presets for jazz, classical, vocal, and rock music. A CD player was optional. Beneath the equalizer, this one has some of the optional auxiliary gauges, including oil pressure, outside temperature, and a voltometer. There's a bit of extra storage down below, chain storage, your interior lighting controls, as well as the switch for the power sunroof. Because you don't have a lot of cumbersome drivetrain stuff going on across the middle of the car, the console is able to be kept low. There's an ashtray towards the back and towards the upper portion of the center stack. Going off of what I talked about earlier, a lot of the features that you would use most often are located in the upper portion of the dash, grouped tightly together. This is so everything stays in your field of vision and the driver stays less distracted, as you don't have to look into the console and fish around for things when going down the road. It's all within a fingertip's reach. Aside from the typical zone adjustments, front and rear defrost, recycling, and of course having AC, one of the more fascinating things to me on this car is the fresh air ventilation system, which, when driving in colder weather, you have the heater on. That cooler air is actually passed through the upper vent in the center portion of the dash, designed to blow in your face to help keep you alert either during the day or at night when the heater is on full blast in the rest of the car. The instrument cluster is wonderful, very comprehensive. It packs a quartz clock, a tachometer to the left, your boost pressure gauge to the right, as well as vehicle temperature and fuel level.
Alrighty. Next, we'll go ahead and shut her down. To remove the key, I actually have to place the car in reverse. Now let's go ahead and hop in the back seat and check out overall space and amenities. Alright, so hopping in the back seat, you just grab this little handle right here, tip the backrest forward, and go ahead and hop on in. I was actually surprised by how much interior space this car had, especially for the back seat. I mean, for reasonably tall people, this would be a very comfortable traveling car for being a coupe. I'm 5'10", and with an ideal seating position for myself in front, I have about an inch or so of leg space and maybe 1.5 to 2 inches of head space, so not too bad overall. It's also extremely comfortable back here. You have a lot of padding in the upper and lower cushions, good lower back support, good lateral support, and adjustable headrests for either side. In the middle, you have a full padded leather armrest. You don't have any cup holders or anything, but it's also very soft like the rest of the seat. You can seat up to 5 people in the 900 with an extra seatbelt in the middle, but it'll be kind of tight with 3 full-size adults, so probably just someone smaller or even a child. The visibility is excellent in this vehicle, like I talked about already. There's grip handles up top with coat hooks, and for a little bit of extra ventilation, each of these windows, even though they're not powered, serve as vents. So there's little handles back here that you can unhook and extend them out. Very cool. Like the rest of the interior, all of the surfaces are soft to the touch. You have large armrests. The only storage you have back here is on the seat back storage pockets, but that's about it. And of course, the illumination up top. But this is just a wonderful vehicle. I love the styling. It's so comfortable. Excellent build quality for 1998. This thing just has it going on, and I'm so thankful to have this opportunity today. But yeah, instead of rambling anymore, let's go ahead and hop out and check out trunk space.
If you wanted the maximum amount of cargo space at the time, the best way to go about it was to opt for the 900 hatchback. Now, the measurements between this car and the sedan are very close. The maximum capacity only differs by a few cubic feet or so. With the rear seats in place, the hatchback has 21.3 cubic feet of space, or 27.2 cubic feet of space with the parcel shelf removed. Folding down the rear seat more than doubles the total space to 56.5 cubic feet. All around, that's an impressive amount of cargo hauling ability. A low, flat load floor certainly makes things easier to stow, and the hatchback offers even greater flexibility by having the ability to accommodate much taller items than the sedan. In comparison, the 900 convertible was rated at just 12.9 cubic feet.
Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the in-depth look at the Saab 900 Turbo SPG. Be sure to stay tuned next time. There's always a lot more where that came from. Take care, everyone.